The next one in the line is the Kawasaki Z650. As you can see in the background there, I still have the MT07, and you can see the profile is almost identical on these bikes. Very, very similar. I haven't ridden this yet, so I don't know what it's going to feel like. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of either of the style of the bikes, if I'm honest, but I do like the MT07 better. The Kawasaki front end I'm not a super fan of, but that's a completely subjective point, and it's irrelevant what I think, because you guys are the ones that are looking at buying them. So that being said, let's not waste any time and jump straight on it. Okay, wait. So the Z650 does feel a little bit smaller. It definitely feels narrower. This tank is much narrower, and I'm definitely sitting a little bit lower, as you can see in the bend in my legs here. The other thing I noticed, this one has a much nicer LCD screen on it versus the basic one on the MT07. Let's do a first start. So this bike is also a parallel twin, but it doesn't have the same cross-plane crank that the MT07 has, so you're not getting that same really nice sound to it. Sound is also kind of subjective, I guess, but you know, a good sounding bike is a good sounding bike, and this one to me definitely doesn't sound as good as the MT07. Scoot through these cars here. So ergonomics first. This bike feels very similar to the MT07, not much different at all really. So yeah, very comfortable. The seat does feel a little bit lower. I do feel like I'm on a slightly smaller motorcycle. The seat is nice though. It's not as wide, probably not as comfortable as the MT07, but the back pillion seat is kind of keeping me, you know, in the back. You're not going to fall off the back, which could be a bonus. Very similar power wise. Honestly, I expected the MT07 to feel more powerful than this bike. I don't know what the power figures are off the top of my head, but I'll put them up on the top left of the screen so you can see for yourself again with the price and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, personally, really the difference comes down to the looks on these bikes. I'm just not a super fan of the way this one looks, but you know, if this is what you're into, then I guess you're gonna like it. Yeah, power wise it feels almost identical really. I really did expect the CP2 engine in the MT07 to feel a little bit better, but yeah, maybe the CP2 has a little bit more torque, a little bit more low down power, but you know, you're comparing two bikes that are very, very similar. I suspect the power figures are going to be almost identical. Throttle response is about the same. A little bit of snatchiness, but nothing too major. This is also one of those bikes that has a huge range of parts for it. You can get all sorts of aftermarket parts to make it look how you want it to look. I don't think there's any other color schemes in this one. Green is kind of Kawasaki's thing, so take what you get. The mirrors are okay. A little bit of vibration. I can see a bit more of my arm in these ones than I could in the MT07 mirrors. Mirrors are one of those things that are so easy to change that I don't personally think it's a problem. But the stock mirrors, I do prefer the MT07. Let's get around this car. This one you can hear more of the airbox sound, has a bit more of that throaty induction sound than you do on the MT07. Oh yeah, this one's a little bit, okay. In first gear, the throttle on this one is a little bit choppier than the MT07. The MT07 was just a bit smoother, a little bit easier to handle. I mean, you have to remember as well, this is the first time I've ever ridden this bike, so you know, it does take a little bit of time to get used to individual motorbikes. Let's find a spot to pull over, check this bike out. As always, I am going to do a like 20 to 100 test on the motorway on-ramp with these bikes, so check the timestamps in the description if you want to see that. The clutch pull on this bike is really easy. You know, I think most of these bikes are made to be easy to ride, and the clutch pull on this feels pretty much the same as the MT07 as well. Yeah, okay. So this bike in the very low rev range, when you're kind of going around roundabouts and things like that, is quite a bit choppier than the MT07. It's probably something you could tune out of it. You know, back in the older model MT07s and XSR 700s, you could get them remapped and you wouldn't get a lot more power, but you get much smoother throttle response, and it took that kind of lash out of the on and off throttle on a bike. So I'm assuming you could do something similar to this bike as well, but it's definitely something to note. So low speed maneuvering, you're going to need to use the clutch on this one to get a kind of smooth U-turn. See that? Just a little bit of throttle kind of kicks you back a bit. See? Just touch it and it's kind of like has that go stop thing. Here it is, guys, Kawasaki Z650 2022 model. As I said, I think the styling from the side is not too bad. It's really just the front end I'm not a super fan of. This one has Nissan brakes, which feel about the same as the other bikes we've ridden so far. You're not getting LED indicators with this bike. It's got the old school bulbs in it. I think Kawasaki just haven't put as much effort into styling this motorcycle, which is, you know, a common theme with Kawasaki. It's not a bad looking bike, but you know, as I said, it's going to come down to your individual preference and what you're into, really. You could put a tail tidy on it, which is one of those things where you remove this whole section and it just brings the number plate sort of up here and makes it look much cleaner on the back. Tires, it looks like we've got Dunlops, yeah, Dunlop sport tires on, which felt fine. Let's do an exhaust note test and then get back on the road, do a quick 20 to 100 pull and see what it's like on the motorway in terms of stability. Yeah, not quite a nice sounding engine as a CP2. So slow speed maneuvering on this bike is fine. Like I said, it's just that Snatchy throttle, but if you use a bit of clutch, put a feathering of the clutch, it's fine. It's just something you would have to get used to. These kind of things are just, you know, they're just part and parcel with buying a new bike. You know, you have to get to know your bike and learn its quirks. Every bike has quirks, no matter how much money you spend on it. If you were extra vertically challenged, you'd probably be more comfortable on this bike. Suspension wise, it feels good. You know, it feels pretty similar to most of the other LAMS approved bikes you're going to get that have a more sporty feel to them. You know, it's firm enough, not a track bike, but it's firm enough. It's not a premium suspension, but it feels fine. Neutral's really nice and easy to find, really easy to lane split on this bike. This bike has a really light clutch actually, you know, an easy kind of one finger pull on it, and that display is really nice. It's really bright. The sun is like directly on it at the moment, and I can see everything really clearly. So as we come up to the motorway on ramp here, we'll get ready for our super exciting 20 to 100 pull on the LAMS test bikes. Got a few cars behind us, so we have to be a little bit careful. Always checking your mirrors for cars in the way. Alright, we made a bit of a gap, so let's get down to 20. I think that was a little bit slower than the MT07. I could be wrong. This flashing rev limiter could get a little bit annoying. I mean, I'm in 6th gear at 95 k an hour and it's flashing. I don't know if that's because the bike is in a break-in period, or not too sure about that one. That was the Kawasaki Z650 2022 model year. Next we're going to try the KTM Duke 390, which is one of my favorites. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.